Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. This is the end of 2019, and I thought I'd take a break from all the Gosho reading and study guide and just say a few things about 2019. I wanted to answer a couple of your questions. Number one, several of you have noticed the beads that I wear. This is one set. This is the set that I use when I'm in the larger school. This right now I'm in the house, but I made these, and I don't know what I've got in them. $40 or $50 worth of materials. I like the heaviness of the ceramic and the stones, and I have some bronze or brass fittings, and I like the long tassels. That's a temple thing. I have a less expensive, less ornate pair of beads or set of beads, juzu, that I use and carry around with me. So several of you asked, where can I get these beads? Nowhere. I made them. So I thought what I might offer, I don't want to go into business doing this, but if you'd care to make a donation, either directly to me through PayPal or through my website, or on Patreon or Cocoscope, both of those are .com/TLK for Threefold Lotus Kun, and it's sufficient to pay for the materials. I will endeavor to send you a set, or to take some good close-up pictures so that you can see what I did and make your own. Anyway, so that's been asked several times about the beads. Where can I get them? Where did you get them? So forth. So I thought I'd answer that. The other question that pops up a lot, constantly, or two things actually. Karma. What is karma? How does karma do? Who gets karma? How do you get karma? Where does it come from? What's instant karma? Karma. Karma is like a hugely misunderstood concept. And it's interpreted by no small amount of New Age and whatever, what have you. Everybody, not even Buddhism, every organization that dances around meditation or yoga or whatever seems to claim the right to karma. But make no mistake about it, Nichiren, Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, knew in his day, some 2,600 or more years ago, that he was going to be challenging very ingrained ideas about Brahmanism and Hinduism in his day. There was so much folklore and inculcated cultural mysticisms and so forth, and karma being one of them, used in the class or caste structure that still exists to this day in India, using karma as somewhat of really an enforcement of caste structure, the upper educated class versus the lower menial classes, or peasantry, if you will, in the West. But in India, it's very stratified, and you can only get your karma assigned to you or discovered or described to you by these elder, knowledgeable people. I mean, it's a real political device. When Shakyamuni started digging into all of that, when he finally decided, I've got it, karma was one of the biggest things he revised. And this is where we get these, people talk about cause and effect all the time, without really understanding fully what that means. Buddhism is an extremely internal investigation. It's and that investigation plummets the depth of what our mechanisms, our mental mechanisms of pattern creation, and then as soon as we recognize a pattern or discover a pattern or create a pattern, we become very glued to it. Attachment. This is the concept of attachment, right? And those attachments, as we make them, are karmic. But more to the point of karma, the way we come to these experiences and these patterns and these ideas are filled with preconceptions and dispositions toward making those patterns, and in fact attaching ourselves to those patterns. That's closer to what karma is about. Karma, as I often say, is the energy of formation. But take that apart for a moment and understand what formation is. Formation is different for each and every one of us. So as we make up our emotions, opinions, and ideas about our experiences of life, and therefore we expose that, or what's the word? We project those internal realizations outward, right? And we imprint them on our environment, others, everything. If we go back to the foundation of how we form those ideas, that is the formation. And that is karma. So if you can begin to understand that, then what you'll come to is that karma is a self-created thing. It's not from outside. It's not from nature or deities or forces or higher this or higher that. All the potential of your life for you, is yours. It's yours to form. And this is what we do all the time without considering it. So Buddhism, again, is about a deep dive, if you will, into the nature of how we create this thing we call self. And that self is not distinct from our environment. Our environment is a construct of our own making. So Buddhism, in this way, is a very personal, individual thing to navigate. This throughout all of the sutra, Shakyamuni, as well as the scholarship that came after him, from Nagarjuna to Tendai, all the way to our nearest example of scholarship, Nichiren, defines methodologies and ways of understanding how we ourselves create that self and that life experience. And this, in fact, is why to be human is such a precious thing. It's so brief, and there's so little time to really spend interrogating the self, through which we gain great insight. And those insights affect our pattern making and the way we experience the world. That's Buddhism. This is why I often say study is the crux of Buddhism. People have said to me that no, meditation is the sole thing. But if you understand, meditation is, first of all, meditation is a form of study. Secondly, you have to have some preconceived idea when you enter meditation. So where did that come from? It's like saying, no, driving is all that is important to getting anywhere. Okay, but what road are you going to choose? Which map are you following? What do you want to go through the mountains? Do you want to stay flat on ground? Do you want to take an aircraft to a certain point? How are you going to travel? And those insights come from study. And those insights inform your meditation, and then your meditation can grow. If all you do is sit and meditate without any outside form of study, then you're going to stagnate. You're going to get bored. You're human. We're human. That's what we do. If we're not creating patterns, then we kind of wilt. And that's what happens to our practice. The only way you can keep your practice alive is to study. Now, why Mahayana? Why the Lotus? Now, this is critical to understand. You can study, and in earlier stages of teaching of Buddhism, this was so important to understand the self and to study that entire branches of Buddhism have been created from just those early teachings. Think Hinayana, Theravada, Tripitaka. There's a lot of great, I mean, this was revolutionary. Shakyamuni was very revolutionary because he took what was essentially the spiritual domain of all these sects that were around him and said, okay, stop looking for answers here, there, you know. It's all within. It's all, you already know what this is. And that was shocking enough. But then starting to take it apart so that people understood how to begin to understand, to gain the capacity to look inward and understand what is going on in this reality that I have in my head. That spawned entire branches of Buddhism, and that stayed there, that got attached and created their patterns, and just that's where they practice. This is where Mahayana and the development of Mahayana comes in and culminates in the Lotus Sutra, is that Shakyamuni took teaching, learning, and study to the very next level, taking fully into account that we are human. So how do we become enlightened as human beings? We cannot do, you can gain a great amount in study. It expands and deepens your meditation, which is also essential. So nothing taken away from meditation. You have to study, and then you have to contemplate and integrate your insights, achieve the insights, dive into the insights, and actualize them in your daily life. This is the method of Buddhism, that your enlightenment isn't somewhere you go or somewhere you discover. It's something you reveal because it's already there. You just have these tons of veils, of clouds, of patterns you've created and now adhered to that are in the way of seeing a more simple, more actualized moment of truth. All right, so the earlier Buddhists would say, well, that's it. You just study and meditate and you come to clarity. That is quite an achievement, but it's not complete. Because once again, Buddhism is very pragmatic. It's about enlightenment in this life as a human. So how do you take that ultimate step? Well, here's the hard one. This is the hardest part of Buddhism. Being an example and helping to set others in our environment on this path. And not everyone's ready to jump in and go, cool, let me read all the sutra. Some might, but more often than not, you're going to be talking to people who are quite a bit removed from the scholarship of Buddhism. Many, I can take where I live in the South, many will look at you like you're a foreigner, like you're something they just don't understand. They know you're there. They go, oh, you're a Buddhist. I might as well say, you know, I'm from Mars. Okay, you're from Mars. They have no concept, right? So, and there's varying degrees, I understand. I'm just trying to explore this fully with you, because the reason we come to the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras and the Lakavatara and the Virmalakirti and all of the sutras that lead up to the Lotus, what we're defining in the scholarship, what Shakyamuni was defining, is that ultimately And this is why the bodhisattva that you hear all the time, what is that? What does that mean? The bodhisattva practice, which culminates in the Lotus Sutra, is about being an example and assisting others toward this path of self-realization. Some people are desperately seeking self-realization with more or less understanding whether or not they see it as Buddhism. And so to be a stalwart practitioner of Buddhism, then your words, your actions, your influence on others must drive toward. That doesn't mean like there are some sects that say, well, you have to beat people to submission to get them to do this right. That's very militaristic, and at certain points in history, like when Nichiren was around and he was in the beginning centuries of the shogunate and a samurai mentality, very warrior, very direct, very black and white, that was indeed not only necessary, but accepted, because that's the way authoritarianship worked back then. From your parents to your teachers to your spiritual awakenings or training, everything was, and still to this day in China as well, in Asia, very severe teaching method. But that doesn't mean it's appropriate today. Today, people's attention spans are so short, and we're into so much immediate gratification that anything that was that strong today, I believe, would be a turnoff. It might. Some people need it. Some people need the authoritarianship. Witness the governments throughout the world right now allowing these really neo-fascist, authoritarian governmental policymakers, because on the receiving end, people have been beaten down to the point where they just want to be told what to do. They can't be bothered with effort. This is a very dangerous time for that. So, back to my point, to try to promote Buddhism in that same authoritarian way, it's going to backfire. It's not going to work. We need to ally ourselves with others. We need to be a source of comfort and inspiration to others. And the way we exercise or practice that influence, that benevolent, that kind influence, is going to change person to person. But in general, however it begins, we must recognize it as a kind of a, not an urging, but an embracing kind of look at what you can do with this. Look at what you can do with your life. This is up to you, and it's all. And not only is it up to you, but it's within your grasp. It's your personal power. Take it back. Don't relinquish it anymore. Right? All of what I'm describing is bodhisattva practice, and this is the ultimate form of study. Don't miss what I'm saying here. That in being an influence, in assisting others, and that doesn't mean come here and chat with me, you'll figure it out. It may be for some. Maybe some people are ready to do that. I have people contact me all the time and say, can I just come and experience this? Sure. Right? But I'm not going to beat them over the head and say, if you don't do this, or you must do this, that I will show them the proper way to do it. I will be respectful, but I will also be, I will leave no, I won't be wishy-washy about it. I'll be direct. You came to me. But I also don't want to be authoritarian about it. I want to be like offering food to somebody who hasn't eaten in a long time. I don't want to give them junk. I want them to know that they can trust me, and then I'm going to give them good, nurturing food, and maybe caution them if they're eating too quickly, right? Same kind of thing. But here's the key about this behavior, this bodhisattva, and this is what Shakyamuni nailed over and over, and Nichiren does the same. Not only, Nichiren's a little harder to study because he teaches by his example more than he does by his direct word, although both are there. So you have to understand how to read Nichiren. But anyway, just to end this little vlog, that I thought would be a good thing to recap the year and years. The study portion of Bodhisattva is that when we influence others, we are hyper conscious of the way that we're communicating and the way we're being heard, because we listen to our own internal voices all the time. We're used to them. We're used to them, they're familiar, we know how to deal with them, and we know how to avoid them. But when you talk to others and think little things pop into mind, and you find yourself scared, how do I answer that? Oh, blah, blah. What's happening is you're retraining your inner voice. And you're saying, you haven't looked there in a while. You've never looked there. This is learning, self-teaching, and study at a Buddhist level as a much more profound inner depth. You see, once you start practicing Buddhism, you cannot avoid what's going on in here. You don't just react. You still react, you're human, but you react with a conscious question mark. What's happening here? Why am I feeling this way? You do that even without Buddhism to some degree. How many times have you asked yourself, why do I keep getting in this mess? With Buddhism, you won't just ask why. You'll go, how? And I've got videos on this. Why is a trap. It's a weird little mystical trap that we play with ourselves so we can just go over there. I don't want to pay attention to you. When we ask how, we start looking much deeper, and that's always internal. That level of study will take your awakening far beyond simply solipsistic study for yourself. That's why Bodhisattva practice is essential for fully gaining your maximum potential. Potential you don't look for. Because we've made a pattern. This is who I am. This is who I think I am. This is my environment. This is who I think my environment is. When we interact with others in a bodhisattva way, we learn, and it sends us to sutra. It sends us to our practice. Oh crap, I don't understand. What do I tell this person, right? How do I help this person out? What do I do? Let me look in the Gosho. Let me look in the Sutra. Something has to spark my understanding here. This is the Sangha. This is real study. This is the Buddhist method. This is what Shakyamuni spent his whole life trying to get people to understand. Does it make sense? So, study. Don't just read, but to whatever degree you're able, be a positive influence, not just positive, but positive toward Buddhist understanding, toward Buddhist study, toward introspective knowledge. The answers are within all of us. I don't have your answers, you don't have mine. But we have strong methods to help you and me get to that essential awakening. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. And I'm just going to close by saying there's such there are no words, no language that I have found to fully express my appreciation for you. Not just for me, but for your practice, for your participation, for your effort. Good on you. I'm amazed by you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'm really hopeful I'll be able to pull off this live New Year's Gongyo. I had a lot of troubles with it last year, some of you may know. But I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot again this year. So with that, I'll close this and on to the next one. Bye-bye.